Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Chef Triathlete podcast, Why Mindset, Movement, and Science Matter. I'm so excited to be here today. I am Anthony McCauley, your host, and this is our very first episode of the podcast. So I want to break down how the podcast is going to work. We are going to break this down into a few different segments for you. First, called the prep work. That's where we're going to explain what we're going to talk about today, what the basis of the episode will be. Then we're going to get into the kitchen and break it down and how nutrition and peptides can work together with this subject. In training, then we're also going to talk about how training and performance can help you and give you tips on training depending on what your challenges are. Then we get into the test kitchen. This is where we put it all together for you. This is where everything becomes relatable and we put the whole process together, which we're calling the recipe. And then we're going to give you a takeaway. We're going to give you one assignment to work on every week so you have goals to continuously be working towards. But today's all about the introduction. So I'm going to introduce myself, give you a little bit of my background, and let you know how I came to starting the podcast and why I think the podcast can be so impactful for you. So like I said, my name is Anthony McCauley. I am a trained chef and a triathlete. And I started my fitness and my self-discovery journey about 6 years ago. And within those 6 years, I definitely came up with a lot of different challenges. I definitely been through a lot of ups and downs and want to share my journey with all of you to help you become a better person, stronger mindset, a healthier person, and we all want to work towards longevity as well. So a little bit of background about me. I'm a 46-year-old male. I am an avid triathlete. I am married to my beautiful wife, Carrie, and I have 3 boys, Anthony, Caleb, and Jackson. We all live here in Massachusetts, and we like to do all kinds of things together as a family. Also, I like to partake in endurance sports and things like triathlon, marathons, cycling events, all of the above. How did I get to this point? Well, about 60 years ago is when I started my journey. Like a lot of other people, when they start to go through a life change or a self-discovery or a journey, something traumatic in your life happens to get to that point. So in 2018, my father became ill. Shortly after that, he passed away. I was about 39 years old and started just kind of running to get an escape from reality and really started to enjoy that feeling of being outside, being one with myself, and also the endorphin that you felt after completing a run. This is when the life change, the next chapter of life started for me. So I went from running a couple of miles a week to a couple miles a day to shortly after that signing up for my first race, which was a 5-mile race. I thought training for this race was like training for a marathon. If I'm sure some of you can relate, when you first start a goal, the first step in that goal may seem very big. So to me, 5 miles was a huge, huge accomplishment. Completed my 5-mile race, I was hooked. I was hooked on health. I was hooked on fitness, but it wasn't necessarily a healthy hooked. I was 100% all in. I really was not focusing on any other aspects of my life at the time. I started signing up for half marathons, full marathons, and I was way too involved in my health in a negative way. I started counting calories. I started working out way too much to the point where I actually got very, very thin and I was very unhealthy. But at that time, I could not see past that. I thought everything was great. Everything was not great. Friends and family kept constantly reaching out to me with concern, how I looked. You know, they were concerned about, you know, my social aspect, my physical aspect, and I was just kind of ignoring all of that noise because to me at the time it was noise. I did have a wake-up call, and I started to refocus and try to find that balance. So the last few years, I've got into triathlon. I've completed quite a few Ironman races, 5 to be exact, and I had a lot of ebbs and flows within that to find that balance within myself to be a healthy person, not only mentally, but physically, which is not easy to do, especially when you're feeling lost and you're in a self-discovery mode. This is one of the reasons why I started this podcast, so we can kind of walk through and talk through all of these challenges, because I've been through it all. Like I said, from not seeing what is in front of me, thinking I'm healthy, but I'm not healthy, to learning how to be healthy and balance my life, which is not always completely balanced, but it's a lot more balanced now than when it was a few years ago. And we continue to try to work on that and improve that balance, because balanced life will help you be successful in every other aspect, and especially when it comes to mental and physical health. So that's a little bit of my journey. Like I said, so now I'm currently a triathlete. I've completed 5 full Ironman. I've also completed 3 ultra endurance events and about a dozen marathons. So I'm very much into endurance activities, endurance sports, and the health of my body, and also longevity. I'd like to talk about the longevity part, because this is also going to be a part of the podcast. In terms of longevity, a few years ago, I started to learn about peptides and study peptides, and was very curious on what peptides were and how they can help us in terms of health, wellness, and longevity. Well, since then, I've done expansive research, and I feel that peptides can definitely help a lot of us out there with some of the challenges that we are dealing with. Now, with that being said, I'm not here promoting peptides as a cure-all. I'm promoting peptides as something that I can share education with you that could possibly help you along your journey, especially for middle-aged adults. With all of that, we're also going to talk about nutrition, because nutrition was a challenge for me, and I know it's a challenge for a lot of other people, and how to find that balance within nutrition. Just to back up a little bit about my experience with nutrition, I told you that I went from one extreme to another extreme in terms of nutrition. I was that person that was literally counting every single calorie that went into my mouth, bringing food to events, refusing to eat that slice of cake or that ice cream or that pizza, which was very unhealthy mentally and physically for me. It took me quite a long time to find that balance, and I believe now I have found that balance. In my philosophy on nutrition is eating healthy in a balanced way with what fits your lifestyle. You can definitely find a balanced way to eat nutritionally without having to count all those calories and be so strict, unless that strict calorie count is for something that you're competing for, like a bodybuilding competition or something along those lines, where you have to count your calories and you have to count your macros to meet a certain aesthetic within your body. But if you're just looking to be healthy, maintain your weight, or lose weight, we can help you find that balance. Now, with all that being said, I promise you that this education will be simple, ethical, research-based, and fit your lifestyle. The whole premise of this podcast is for us average adults looking to improve ourselves, set goals, whatever that may be, to improve our life mentally and physically. So how does training play in with all this? This is another challenge for a lot of people in terms of balance, because you can go from not training to training extreme and a lot of different things in between. I've done them all. I go on training blocks depending on what I'm doing for races at that particular time during the year or my phase of life. Training can mean different things to different people, and it's not the same. And we need to kind of recognize that to make sure that if you're working with someone or talking to someone about training, they do not feel intimidated or uncomfortable, because not everyone trains the same as another person. Like for me, example, I consider myself a high trainer. I train a lot. I train in multiple disciplines, sometimes multiple times during the day, but not everyone has the same mindset as me in terms of training. So when I speak to people about training and they're new to training, I want them to feel comfortable. So I do not necessarily talk about all the training that I do. I try to introduce training to them in a simple manner so you can change your life and continue to improve your overall health and wellness. So what does this mean for all of us? In this podcast, we are going to bring in expert guests. We're going to have different episodes, and we're going to talk about all of these topics and dig down deep into them every week. For example, one week we may talk about mindset. One week we may talk about movement or recovery. Whatever that may be, we're going to talk about nutrition, health, training, possibly peptides and nutrition, and kind of bring it all together. When we bring this recipe together, what we are looking to do is combine all of these topics, all of these categories to improve our lives, to have one goal, to stay as healthy as we can as long as we're alive. Like I said, I'm not looking to tell you I have some magic potion that we're going to live forever, but I believe we can do certain things to extend the healthiness of our life, right? We want to feel good mentally, we want to feel good physically, and we want to do that well deep into our late stages of life. I'll give you an example. I was listening to a podcast the other day. A lot of you may be familiar with Dr. Atia. He was talking about adults when they reach 70 to 75 years old, and a lot of us at that age, in terms of physical fitness, there is a large cliff, fall off. So what our goal is to do now as middle-aged adults is do preventative things to make that fall off a lot less steep, right? So we can still do some fun things while we're in our 70s, maybe in our 80s. Amazing example of that. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Ironman, but just recently, this year in Kona, there was an 80-year-old woman who completed her Ironman in Kona. That's amazing. Imagine being 81 years old and being able to swim 2.4 miles, ride a bike for 112 miles, and then complete a full marathon within the time frame. Most Ironman races give you a time frame to finish that race, which is about usually 17 hours, which sounds like it's a long time, but when you're out there, it is not that long of a time to complete a race like that. So that is an amazing feat, and that is, I wouldn't say a goal of mine, but if I can compete well into my 70s and do the things that I enjoy now, maybe not at the same level, but at some other level, that is kind of what my goal would be. So what are the next few episodes going to look like? The next few episodes that I have in mind, one I want to talk about is resiliency. And what does that mean when we're dealing with adversity? If some of you have been following me prior to the podcast, this is one thing that we have been talking about. Also, self-discovery. Self-discovery mode is huge, and this is another topic I want to get deep into. This is something that I've been in myself for a couple years now, and self-discovery is something that can be fearful, and I think it's something that needs to be talked about so other people can understand what these feelings are and how to get through this self-discovery and not stay in a mode that's stuck and then have, feeling bad that they did not follow through a path or listen to something in their head in terms of their self-discovery that could have brought them to something amazing. Perfect example is that I would not be sitting here today if I did not follow that path. Think about that. I would not be sitting here recording a podcast today if I did not follow my path in my mind of self-discovery and overcome the fear and overcome the negativity telling me that, oh, you're crazy, you don't need to do a podcast, or whatever would be or possibly could be in my head to not get to this point. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying I'm the end all or the mecca of any of this. What I'm saying is that I made a conscious decision some time back that I was just going to trust the process, follow the path, and it has gotten me here today. Let me explain a couple other things as what following the path can do for you. When we're in certain phases of life, we experience different things. Whether you're in your 20s, you're finding yourself as an adult, you're discovering college, maybe young career life, whatever that may be. Then you get into your 30s, maybe you find someone, maybe you get married, you start a family. You are in the thick of it at that point. You have young children. For years, the only focus you really have is your family, your children, and getting them to a point where you raise your children and you move on to your next phase. And that is an amazing phase of life. I would sometimes give anything to go back to the phase where we were running in 6 or 7 different places. And, it was just so exciting to see the kids grow up and see their sporting events and experience all of that. I coached sports for years. I coached all my boys in sports, and I would never give any of those years up. That part of life is amazing. Then you get to another phase of life. This phase of life is scary for a lot of people. The next phase of life is the kids are older. They're starting to move out of the house. They're becoming adults. What do I do with my life now? This is such a scary time for a lot of people, and some people will stay stuck in a scenario and just kind of go through their day-to-day and go through life and not really be happy, but be content. Some people will go through a self-discovery mode where they may be confused and they might go a completely different direction than where they thought they would go. This has positive and negatives, right? I think we see a lot of marriages really struggle through this time in their lives. Because when you're in that self-discovery mode, maybe one person is discovering one path and another person is discovering a different path. And instead of figuring how those paths can work together, those paths just continue to separate. And we see, marriages sometimes or relationships fall apart at that phase, which is very unfortunate. What I believe we have to do is just trust the process and be very open with our partner or spouse about what we are going through, discuss our discoveries, discuss our thoughts, discuss what our process is. And I'm going to be the first one to tell you I am not always and have not been great about that. I'm trying to be more trying better to communicate that more with my spouse, to have her involved in what's going on with my mindset. Because if your spouse or partner has no idea what's going on in your mind, you just start to feel distant. So instead of feeling distance, instead of just separating, communicate. Communicate to your friends, communicate to your family. Let people know, this is the journey that I'm taking. This is what I feel strongly about. This is where I think it's going to take me. I don't know how it's going to end, but I'm going to trust the process and follow the path. I've been doing this for quite some time now with my coaching, with my education, and with spreading health, fitness, and just positivity to everyone around me. If you have a chance to follow my social media, you'll see that I post videos daily, and a lot of these are just positive mindset videos. And believe me, 2 years ago when I started posting videos, my family thought I was crazy. I'm sure some of my friends thought I was crazy, but it's been a couple years now that I've been doing this, and I can tell you, I know for a fact I've reached so many people in my life. I've also met some people in my life that my videos have spoke to them and helped them. And in return, that has helped me. That has helped me tremendously as a person, knowing that the path that I'm following has a reason. It has purpose. I am helping people. They are helping me. Also, I am being heard. And that's how now, as I'm following that path, now I am actually here recording a podcast to share more education with you, to hopefully share more positivity with you, to help us all get through those mental blocks, mentally and physically, to improve our lives. If we can unlock some of these mindsets to improve our lives, what we can do is endless. We will feel more confident daily. You wake up with a purpose. You're going to perform better in your career. You're going to perform better with your family. You're going to improve your health overall. And I strongly believe if your mental health is strong, it's easy to focus on your physical health. If your mental health is not in the right place, it's very difficult to get your physical health in the right place. This is why it's so important focusing on mindset. So like I said, let's recap. What we want to make this podcast, this Chef Triathlete podcast, is that we want to curate so-called recipes to improve our lives on a daily basis, to move forward on goals, and to give you education, hopefully that will help you with that in terms of nutrition, in terms of, physical activity, maybe possibly peptides and supplements. We're going to educate you on these because, like I said, I truly believe adding peptides into your routine can definitely help with some of the challenges. We're going to talk about movement, why it's so important to get up and move every day, mentally and physically. So with all that being said, we're going to have some great guests on here as well. I already have some people in mind that are in this segment, in this world, that can spread their knowledge, that can spread their positivity, and just to make us a better person overall. I hope you guys are excited. Listen, this first episode, I was super nervous to be here. I can't tell you how excited I am to be here, and I promise you that these episodes moving forward will be very impactful, worth your listen, and very educational. Like I said, all of the above. I'm so excited to be here. I hope you guys listen more. I'm looking forward to the next episode and lining up some amazing guests for you. That's all I have to say for today. Stay tuned. Thank you for listening to the Chef Triathlete podcast. Have a great day.